Good afternoon. Thank you to all of you sparing your time to come along today. We're a little bit restricted, IT-wise, we haven't been given roving mics, so this is for the video camera, so I'm stuck here, bear with me. I like moving about, so I might struggle a little bit of this. So the things we're going to cover off today are what is a marketing strategy, why you should have one in your firm, and some great tactics that you can employ for free. We'll have time for Q&A at the end, but personally I quite like a bit of engagement, so if any of you want to ask anything as we go through, please feel free. So some housekeeping, if you've got mobiles, put them on silent please, and a bit about us. This is our banner over in the far side. I run an agency called Consortium Business Solutions. We're a marketing and business development agency specialising in the professional service sector, so we work with a lot of lawyers, accountants, estate agents, architects and so forth. So I just want to get a bit of engagement and a feel for who we've got in the room. Who has travelled the furthest today? Myself, it's from Worthing, so it's around 60 miles I think. Who can do better than that? We've got some free, you can, what's your distance? Devon, oh, Devon, that's quite impressive. Anyone beat Devon? Bolton, is Bolton further than Devon? Is Manchester further than Devon? My geography is shocking. Do you know what? You both win a charger. Get me at the end and we've got a free mobile charger, so yay, well done. Right, let's get started. What is a marketing strategy? So the marketing strategy in your business is going to take a snapshot of where you are now. What does your business look like? What resources have you got? Where do you want to be? These are going to kind of feed into your objectives for your firm and how you're going to get there. One of the most important parts in your marketing strategy is that implementation and review. So they're going to be the tactics that you're going to employ to carry out your marketing strategy, and they're going to constantly need reviewing. What works today might not work tomorrow. A lot of you will have experienced over the last 5 years a lot of direct mail, so we all get hundreds of letters coming through the door. In the last year or so that's pretty much stopped, but you're probably finding that every day you get an e-newsletter from some company or other because everyone's moved online. So it's important to realise that actually going back to direct mail right now might be a good choice. So it's that whole implementation and review, checking what you're doing and seeing if it's working. Out of interest, who in the room has a marketing strategy for their firm? Show of hands? Oh wow, okay, so yesterday we actually had half of the room had a marketing strategy, so well done Bob. How many of you have a business strategy for your firms? Business strategies? Okay. Well, hopefully you're going to take some great notes from today. I'm very happy at the end as well if you've got any questions and want to come and have a chat. So the reasons for your marketing strategy, it's going to link into your firm business strategy, so you do need that too. Arguably your bank would say that's the more important one. But it needs to align with your business objectives of where you're trying to go. So if you're currently a regional firm and you want to become national, your marketing strategy needs to know that, and then the objectives will be broken down from there. So identifying what your target markets are. So today you might be a conveyancing practice, but actually in the future you want to introduce new service lines like private client or family law. It's a chance to look at the external factors. We all get very guilty of being bogged down in our business and just doing the day-to-day work. So with your marketing strategy, you start looking outside as well. We've got some slides coming up around competitor analysis and SWOTs. Does everyone know what a SWOT is? Show of hands? No, great. You're going to come with so many things today. And basically it's going to enable you to effectively set a marketing budget. A lot of firms that we come across and work with don't actually have a marketing budget. That's not to say they're not spending money on marketing, but it's not being given the correct code, they're not measuring it, they're not working out strategically where that money is going to be spent. And obviously that's vital to demonstrate your return on investment. The other key thing with the marketing strategy is it's going to influence the culture within your firms. It shouldn't be something that sits at partner level and never sees the light of day once it's been written. It's something you can share with your team from the reception to the post room, right the way up to the partners, that everybody's on board with, and it will affect the culture of your business. So what's going to be in your marketing strategy? So we spoke about a business strategy. Now your corporate objectives are what's going to be in there. That's going to feed into this marketing strategy, which is going to give you a plan. And this plan, probably in the first instance, is going to be 12 to 18 months because it is going to need that constant review and change. So within your marketing plan, you need to have your target market definition. So it's all very well for me to say, well, I want to be a nationwide marketing agency. It's not very realistic. So initially we're looking at Southeast. Likewise with yourselves, you need to identify not just geographically where you're targeting, but what customers are you targeting. Your market segmentation, so what areas of law you're offering as well. And then competitive analysis, so looking again at your competitors, what are they doing and how are you differentiating yourself. Coming up with some great messaging. I think it's an area that the legal profession have a really great opportunity to come up with some good messaging about what you do and why you do it better. We've worked with some firms in the past where they've, because obviously the language can be quite complicated in law, so making law simple, speaking your language, things like that can be some really good messaging to get customers on board. And then incorporating the marketing mix, so thinking about your service, which is effectively your product, and looking at the pricing, making sure that that's set at the right level and place and where you're promoting yourself. So looking at the marketing theory, some of it you'll look at it and discount it, but just being aware of it being there and what areas you need to concentrate on. And then with your activities, a lot of people will think marketing is all about external and getting new customers, but a lot of your marketing should be internal to your customers that are your staff, because they can be an amazing marketing force for you. So look at the communication that you're doing both externally and internally. And think about online and offline. Obviously everybody, I've got a friend in the room who's all about digital. Everybody thinks digital is this panacea, that's all you've got to do. You've got to be online, you've got to have an amazing website and do social media and then you're sorted. In our industry, as in the legal profession, that's not the case because they're buying people. Effectively, a lawyer is a lawyer. If you're a commercial litigator, the one in one street is going to be the same as another. So you need to be putting your personality across on things, and that's a lot harder to do online than it is offline. So you need to make sure you're covering both bases there. Your campaign planning, again, it's not just law firms, but businesses in general. The temptation when the local newspaper, telephone news says, oh, I've got an amazing last minute deal. You can have half a page for the price of a fifth of a page. And people say yes, but did it meet your objectives? Is it strategic? What campaign is it? What service are you offering? So unfortunately, there's no planning involved in that. So when you're going to run a campaign, if you're a multi-service firm, pick departments and work by department to have a really clear and concise campaign and message. And then make sure that you've got somebody internally, if you don't have marketing teams, that somebody is being given the responsibility for the execution to make sure that it rolls out in the way you want it, that it's being measured, and that after the campaign you can look at that objectively and say whether it worked for you. And then as I mentioned earlier, it's measuring, evaluating and revising. What worked today might not work tomorrow. These guys, Conscious, have been doing this exhibition for 3 years, and so they'll be looking at, well, just because it's worked for the last 2 years, is it still working for us today? So it's that constant review. So we're going to cover off a little bit of theory. Like I say, it's always important to go back to it and see whether it's relevant in your business. But you need some SMART objectives. So they need to be specific. Saying you want to be the best law firm in London isn't really specific enough. What does that actually mean? You know, we want to have 20% of the share of commercial transactions in London. That's going to be a much more measurable objective, which obviously comes on to M. It needs to be attainable. It'd be great for me to say I want to be an international marketing agency. It's probably not attainable in the immediate future, so being kind of realistic and relevant. It needs to be relevant to your industry and what you're trying to achieve. And time-based. Put time limits on things of what you want to achieve. So if you are multi-disciplines, picking a department that you're going to work on, and say for the next 18 months we are going to focus on this objective and achieving it in that time frame. So not any of you had a SWOT analysis or knew of a SWOT analysis. So again, this is internal and external. So internal, it's what are your strengths and your weaknesses. So you may have some amazing lawyers, they're going to be one of your strengths. Your weaknesses might be technology. It might be that you're very paper driven, your website's not as good as it could be. And external is going to be the opportunities and threats that are out there. So at the moment, threats to your marketplace might be co-op law. It's the fact that there's the alternative business structures and anybody can now set up a legal practice. It's mergers between accountants and law firms. So being aware of any threats that are out there. We'll come on as well in a minute to talk about PESTEL, which is another marketing theory, and that's going to talk about different ways that you can identify threats. But also there's a huge number of opportunities out there. So when there's a change in something like the law, so in stamp duty where there was a change and suddenly there was a flood to the market of people wanting to buy properties, that was an opportunity for any conveyancing practices out there to get more of those clients. So your SWOT analysis is something you've got to constantly keep an eye on and see what's changing and what's going on. And obviously internally, your strengths and weaknesses, you have control over those. So where you've got weaknesses, try and solve them and stop them being weaknesses. And where you've got strengths, make sure you're shouting about them in your communications. So the PESTEL factors, some people just limit it to pests and drop off the environmental and legal. I'll just go through very briefly what these might mean to you. It's obviously political at the moment. Everyone's talking about Brexit. To me, I kind of look at it and think, well, I don't deal with any European customers, so I'll be okay. But then it's thinking about the wider ramifications of actually, well, the law firms that I deal with, they might have European customers, and how's that going to affect them? Obviously, you can't influence any of this, but just being mindful of it and seeing whether it's an opportunity or a threat is important. And the economies, like I mentioned with the changes in stamp duty, we're also in a very buoyant economy at the moment, so making sure that we capitalise on that, but being mindful of what can once be good can change. Social, who here has a corporate social responsibility plan? Anyone? CSR plan, yeah? Well done guys. Bob, you got one? So having engagement socially, like I mentioned earlier, a lawyer is a lawyer, so how are you going to differentiate yourself? By having engagement with your local community, whether that's charity, giving something back, that can be your social factor. Technology, the law is potentially a little bit behind accountancy in this. They've got a lot of cloud-based solutions like Xero. Could there be something like that in the legal sector? Is it already coming? Are you going to wait for it to come? Could you embrace it? And environmental, I know it's a struggle being very paper-driven, but there's a lot of firms that are looking at becoming paperless. Could you lead the way with that? And again, that then becomes an opportunity and a USP for your business. And then obviously legal, with the changes of anyone being able to open up a law firm, how are you going to counter that? Can you be agile and move your business and make decisions more quickly, which previously might have taken a long time? Who here knows what their competitors are doing? Anyone? Yeah. You're winking at me, Bob. Yeah, I know what they're all doing. It's vital to know what your competitors are doing. And when they're doing something well, copy them. You know, if it's working, you can save yourself a lot of time and effort to emulate what somebody else is doing. The danger with that can be is knowing that what they're doing is working. Where we're based in Sussex, recently 3 law firms have started advertising on the radio. I don't like radio advertising personally, but obviously one did it initially, and then the others have seen that they're doing it, so they've decided they're going to do it. I would love to know the decision making behind that, because a couple of the firms I know probably don't measure where their work comes from, so it's kind of this black hole of money that they're tipping in because somebody's told them they need to do marketing, and in their minds marketing is radio advertising. So looking at your competitors, what they're doing, but actually really drilling down and seeing, does that work? And go bigger than your competitors. There are a lot of, the professional services are a little bit further behind in marketing initiatives and kind of creative things that they might do. So look at businesses that really get marketing. Look at supermarkets. You know, it's a multi-million pound, probably billion-pound industry. How are they marketing themselves? Now, obviously, they've got millions of pounds budgets, so you're not going to do the same things as them. But what are they doing and how does it work? And you've got the likes of Tesco's and Sainsbury's doing multi-level marketing where they have premium brands and lower brands. So that might be something you could introduce in a law firm where you have a gold service and a silver service. So looking at what they're doing and does it work for them? But also on an advertising perspective, be mindful that the law is a distressed purchase. Sadly, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, yes, I'm going to go and instruct my lawyer to do X, Y, Z for me. They don't really want to have to use you. So advertising in its main sense isn't probably going to be the best way for you unless you have a big marketing budget and it's going to be about brand awareness. If you've got that, then 100% advertising might be the way to go. Sorry, I've got sidetracked, we're talking about competitors. But it's important to know what they're doing. So what's your USP? I would like a show of hands if anyone can tell me what their law firm's USP is, as long as it's not customer service. Does anyone have anything that's not customer service? No. We've got Shopper Anonymous in the room who will happily talk to you about customer service later. Obviously that can be a differentiator in law firms because like we've discussed, the law is the law. If you're a litigator, you're hopefully as good as the next one. it can be an amazing differentiator. And if you do go around the corner to the Shopper Anonymous stand, they've got a white paper on the legal industry showing you how poorly some firms do it. So if you do it well, you can shout about that, and customers will use you because of it. I know the reluctance can sometimes be to shout about it, because then you worry that you're setting a benchmark and somebody might pull you up on it. If you say you're amazing at something, you worry that someone in the chain might let things down, and then you open up a case of a complaint. So I think have faith in this. If you do great customer service, talk about it. But if that's not your USP, have you got something that you're doing different? We had a chap in yesterday, and he did have a different USP. His law firm was doing free training. I did obviously say to him, he told the whole room that, so they might all go and copy, talking about the competitor side of things, but actually copying's fine. It was their idea first, they're going to have promoted it in the run-up, so they will still get something out of that. But think, what do your customers want as well? With a USP, it's fine for us to say, well, our USP is X, Y, Z, but actually ask your customers. It's a great way of engaging with them. Do a little survey and say, we know you use you, we love the fact you use us. What do you think about us? What do we do differently? What do you like about us? And again, ask your team, because the person in the post room might have a very different answer to someone who's doing wills all day long. So ask them what they think your USPs are. And then once you have them, shout about them. We're terrible in this country about keeping our kind of accolades to ourselves. You need to be out there shouting about them. And by doing that, it's going to give you opportunities to enter awards, get some press out of it, and basically win more business. So another bit of strategy for you, another bit of theory here for you, the Ansoff matrix. And give you some examples of customers that we've got that have used this matrix to basically get more work. So in terms of a diversification strategy, we were working with an employment law firm, and they've been an employment law firm for many years, realised that actually they're quite expensive for HR advice, and that was a lot of the time was what they were doing, and their customers were reluctant to use them, so they would come in at the end of a case, end of a matter, because the firm had put off using them because they're expensive. So they were, what's the solution to this? Well, we're going to develop a HR arm to our business. It's not going to be called a law firm, it's going to be called something separate, but it's under our umbrella. So they were then offering their customer a better solution, which ultimately saved them money, but managed to retain their customers. They've then gone a stage further with this now and actually have a training arm to the business, because they realised a lot of their clients needed health and safety training. So it's another separate business, but again under the umbrella of the main firm. So looking at your own businesses, and I know some firms have done this successfully and others less so, but could you be offering alternative services? We have another client in the South Coast who got a very strong private client team doing what all the other private client firms do, which wills, trust, probate, lasting powers of attorney. And again, they were thinking this is really expensive because we're getting Mrs. Jones phone up about her pension, she doesn't know what to do, and we're giving her advice and it's £200 an hour. How can we change this? So they've employed a team of people who are kind of care advisors, so they will go out into the community and see Mrs. Jones because it's easier than her coming into the office, and they're at a much lower charge out rate. So it's kind of filling a need that the customer had that no one else out there is doing it. So it's a way of getting new business from a new market, but at the same time it's also getting new business from their existing customers. So when you have a moment, you're welcome to have these slides. If you share your details, I'll send them to you. But have a think about these different segments and what could you do. Budgets. Who here has a set marketing budget? Great, okay. So it's interesting that some of you got a marketing budget but not the marketing strategy. So it's, you know, all firms are different. But industry, as you'll have seen on my blurb before coming to this, industry specialists or business analysts would tell you that you need to spend 10% of your turnover on marketing. Does anyone do that? I don't do it, to be fair, either. But we did a little bit of research over the last week, and the latest studies we could find was 2013. But in the legal sector, the average spend is 3.4%. So, I mean, that's probably not enough, but kind of to give you some guidelines to think about, that's what the industry was spending in 2013. I suspect it's gone up, and probably quite significantly, because more and more firms are getting to grips with maybe not necessarily the best ways of marketing, but they're understanding that they need to market. But thinking about your marketing budget, are you factoring in their resource? Does anyone in the room have a marketing department in their firm? No. You need us. No. So having a marketing department is obviously a luxury, but most businesses will have somebody that's given them responsibility of marketing, whether it's a really switched on assistant or one of the partners that decides they quite like it and are going to take it on. But before you set out on this marketing journey, you're going to have to identify what resource you're going to use. And if you are going to use a partner, that's expensive. And also, are they actually the best person? What do they know about marketing? It's great because they probably have autonomy, so they can make decisions. But equally, it might be that you've got a paralegal in that did an A-level in something creative, and they would be a better person to do it. So spending some time around, well, we've got this £50,000 marketing budget, it might be that it's going to be a good spend of your time to spend some of that, either consultancy-wise or with somebody that you employ in to do this. A little tip for you as well, for all of you that haven't got a marketing person, you can get an intern for free. So with most universities that are doing marketing-based studies, so that could be a really great thing. We'll talk about a little bit more going on. I know you're not going to be able to read this slide very well. The purpose of it is to demonstrate how complicated your marketing strategy could and probably will end up, all the different tactics that you're going to get. We often find when we're working with a client and doing their marketing strategy, they'll go, oh my God, there's just too much stuff for us to do. There will be, because there is loads out there, but it's about saying, right, there's all this stuff you can do. What's the priority? Let's go back to our objectives. What tactics are going to help us achieve those objectives best? So on here, we've got your website, got events, search, so in terms of local search marketing, search engine marketing, PPC, etc. You've got email marketing, whether it's newsletters, e-shots, blogs. You've got your people, so you've got internal and external, you've got your customers that might recommend you, but you've also got your staff which are hopefully recommending you. And then you've got media and PR, so other PR opportunities that you could get. And then social media. Now, we all know social media could probably become a full-time job for anyone in your business. The sad reality is it probably in the legal space doesn't really generate a return on investment. But the changes that have happened over the last few years are that if you don't have one, people will question why. Why haven't you got one? A bit like 10 years ago, if you didn't have a website, someone would question you. So it's probably, unfortunately, one of those necessary evils that you have to have, but it might not give you a return on investment. So we're going to have some top things that you can do for free. Now, free is obviously a subjective word. These are going to take your time, so you do still need to be mindful of how much time you're going to be giving and at what level in your business is it appropriate that that time is given up. So at the top we've got networking. Now I know a lot of networking events cost, but for example you're here today, this is completely free. So this is networking. There may be opportunities that you can get out of being here today. Also, if any of you are members of Chambers of Commerce, most Chambers of Commerce will have a free event a month that you can go to. The other thing is think outside the box. We're working with some interesting firms at the moment, particularly in the insolvency space because they're all desperate for work, where they're going to set up their own networking. They're going to team up with some other professionals and run their own events. Great way of engaging with customers and potential clients. So blogging. Now all of you should be blogging. It doesn't have to be the same person all the time, and in fact we advocate that you share it around. If you've got 12 fee earners, get them to do a blog a month. We talked earlier about the fact that a lawyer's a lawyer and it's about your personality and your individuality. It's who you are, and that is effectively what your customers are buying. So demonstrate it to them, give them a reason to buy you. I've got a good case study from when I was in-house at a law firm. We had a chap called the Grumpy Conveyancer. Bob will know who that is. And he wasn't really a grumpy conveyancer, but he had a very certain way of doing things, and for some customers it didn't work. They didn't like him, and they probably would leave negative feedback about his customer service. But if you got him, if you understood the way he worked, you loved him. He was the best thing since sliced bread. You'd recommend him till the cows came home. And in his blogs, he managed to demonstrate his personality. So we managed to stop getting some work. I know there might be a bit of, but we want all the work we can get. But it actually benefited us because he was getting the right type of work. So he was getting work that he wanted, the customer wanted to work with him, and then they were doing his job for him by recommending him. So blogging is a really powerful way of demonstrating your personality and making sure you get the work that you want for your business. Directories. Obviously gone are the days of the yellow pages. Some of you may still be advertising in it, but I don't have one in my house. I don't think many people do now. But there are some great free online directories, so make sure your business is listed on them. It's as simple as going into Google and put free directory and they will all come up. thing you need to remember is someone somewhere in your business needs to keep a record of where your company information is held, because if anything changes, if you change name, address, anything, you need to be updating those directories. Reviews. Does anyone keep an eye on their reviews in terms of Google reviews, LinkedIn reviews? You can get some really negative press, sadly, if you're not keeping an eye on it. But the spin on that is get some positive feedback. So ask your customers and your intermediaries to recommend you and give you a review online. That will generate work for you for free. It feeds into referrals. Does anyone here have an internal referral scheme for their staff? Nope. I'm a massive fan of an internal referral scheme. I know they might be scary and complicated, but the sad reality is most employees are employees. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, I have the best job in the world and I want to do everything I can to help the partners in my firm earn millions. But if you give them a reason to, even if it's as simple as a £50 voucher for every piece of work that they generate, you will be surprised about how much you get from that. And the other reality is it's not going to cost you a penny unless you get that work. So for me, it's a no-brainer because it's a win-win. You're getting the business and they're getting something from it. And it will help to create the culture within your business of everyone pulling together for the overall success of your firm. Speaking, most of us don't like it. Believe it or not, I get really nervous public speaking. Most people do. But it's a fantastic opportunity for you to stand up and talk about your specialist subject for free in a lot of cases. So talk to, again, your local chambers of commerce, other business professionals. Would they like a talk on something? You have to be slightly careful because everybody is so busy at the moment that if you as a firm set up your own seminar, unless you hit it perfectly in terms of the topic, no one will come. So it's making sure you've got a really great database of people that you can invite, maybe partnership with some really engaged bodies like, again, the Chamber of Commerce or Federation of Small Businesses. And again, do some research. Ask the business people out there or the individuals, potential consumers, what do they want to hear about? What would be helpful? What could you run for them? And take it online. You know, obviously I've said my thoughts about online, but you can do these as webinars and that's completely free for you apart from the software. Social media, it is free to use, but just be mindful of the time. And again, do your firms have social media policies and are you encouraging your staff to use it? We work with quite a few businesses that actually have blocks, so you can't go on LinkedIn, you can't go on Facebook and you can't go on Twitter in work hours. I do understand that, but actually if they're going to be going on those places to benefit your business, you probably want to enable them to do it with some restrictions around. You've got cross-selling. How many people here have great cross-selling in their businesses? Not many of you. You're going to get gold star at the end, Bob. A lot of law firms will work in silos, just like in the other businesses as well. It's not just the legal sector. You know, we know what we know, we stick to what we know, we keep what we know to ourselves. A very simple thing by trying to change the culture internally and encourage cross-selling. So everybody buying a house that you're doing the conveyancing for, are they doing their will with you? The answer obviously should be yes. Anyone getting divorced, are they doing the will with you? Again, the answer should be yes. If you sat down and looked at your balance sheet and worked out how much income that would generate for you, you'll all start doing it. So look at the cross-selling because it's a fantastic free tactic. And local search, making sure that the content in your website is good for local search, that the tags you've got in there, and if it's not your area of expertise, there's some amazing consultants out there that aren't very expensive that will help you make sure you're putting the right terminology and words in your website. And then, as I mentioned earlier, grants. There are other grants out there. Sadly, a couple finished over the last few years. The government had Growth Accelerator and Growth Vouchers, which were match funding for marketing and business development, which were amazing. So if any of you took advantage of those, well done. Hopefully at some point they'll come back. It effectively made a marketing strategy half price and enabled you to have business coaching for peanuts. So they were fantastic schemes, but there will be others of their like out there, like the intern schemes at some of the universities. A way to give you extra resource so you can help grow your business. Any questions? As I say, I'm happy to stay around for half an hour at the end if anyone wants to speak to me personally. If you want the slides, I need you to fill in the feedback forms. Bribing necessary, please put good or excellent, because they won't let me come back if you don't. And if you have any questions, come and get me at the end. I've got business cards with me. Thank you so much for your time. And the gentleman who won the charger and the lady who won the charger, come and see me and I'll get that for you. Thank you very much.